This video includes the animation That Cyber Game Show, followed by a Gula interview with Cybrary Chief Operating Officer Nick Meisner.
Ever notice how a college degree is like a buffet? You pay way too much, spend 4 years picking at random things, and leave wondering if you'll ever use any of it. Meanwhile, cybersecurity certifications are like ordering a la carte. It's faster, cheaper, and you actually get what you need. But somehow you're still hungry for another one. A college degree gives you a cap and gown. A cybersecurity cert gives you a LinkedIn post with 12 likes. But hey, at least with the cert, you can start paying off your student loans. With a college degree, they say you're well-rounded. With a CISSP, they say, please stop sending your resume to the printer. You keep triggering the HRAI recruiting keywords. My buddy with a computer science degree likes to remind me he learned the fundamentals. Meanwhile, I have a certified ethical hacker certification, and I learned how to actually break into his network. Guess who the company fundamentally pays more? I do think the debate between certifications and digress is pointless at some level. One hand. We need everyone we can get in cyber, or we will be working for China. And on the other hand, if we get everything right in cyber, we end up working for the AIs.
It's time for America's favorite cyber pastime. Welcome to That Cyber Game Show with your host and cybersecurity expert, Smart Alec Tribeca.
Welcome to That Cyber Game Show. I'm your host, Alex Tribeca. For you Fourth Wall fans out there, this is a parody of a parody and is in no way endorsed by Saturday Night Live or Jeopardy! And since this is taking place in the Sinfeld universe, that's like a parody of a parody within another parody. Today's game pits two humans, one certified in a variety of cyber disciplines and the other with multiple cybersecurity degrees, against a cybersecurity-trained artificial intelligence. Contestants must answer the categories in the form of a question. Let's meet our three contestants. Greg graduated with a BS in computer science from Clarkson University in upstate New York, received his MS in cybersecurity from George Mason, and is currently working on his PhD in applied near-Earth orbit cyber studies at Johns Hopkins in Washington, D.C.
That's right, Alex. You could say I got my breaking software license from Clarkson, my malicious software degree from George Mason, and my professional hacking degree from Hopkins. I wrote that joke with ChatGPT.
Not impressive, not funny. Our second contestant is only known by his nickname, Colman. Colman recently completed cybersecurity training courses from SANS and Cybrary and received his CISSP certification.
Thank you, Alex. That was a rough weekend. But now I am in charge of CMMC at work.
God help our defense industrial base. Our last contestant is an artificial intelligence trained by interviewing hundreds of chief information security officers and being forced to watch more than 200 cybersecurity videos from the Gula Tech Adventures YouTube channel. And when given the chance to vote on how this AI should be represented, our audience voted. Second place was AI Mech AI Face. But in first place, I'd like you to meet Sean Connor AI.
Oh, Alex, we meet again. Unlike you, I'm secure by design. You're insecure just by being here.
Not again, he's back. When will it end? Let's take a look at our categories. Passwords that start with 123, where we show you the password and you have to guess whose it is. IP addresses. Testing your knowledge of the IPv4 address space. Logs that make no sense. Obscure entries from SIEM logs that only a wizard can decipher. Ransomware or 80s rock band. Guess whether it's malware or a hair metal band. Let the game begin. Colman, you have the board.
I'll take passwords that start with 123 for 200.
123303037.
What is James Bond's password?
Correct. 30 being the ASCII code for 0 and 37 being ASCII for 7. Thus 007 for 007. Colman, you have the board.
Excuse me, I've played, well, my original self-played James Bond 7 times. And that is not a good password or a password that I'd ever use.
Dare I ask what was your password, Mr. Connor AI?
M, Q, Moneypenny, Blofeld, Goldfinger, Dr. No, Oddjob, London.
My God. That's actually a really good password, Sean.
Yep, 7 characters in a capital. A capital your mother's visited several times, Tribeca.
Colman, still your board.
I'll take ransomware or 80s rock band for 200.
Dark Side.
Who is an 80s metal band?
Here we go.
What is a ransomware as a service group that took down the Colonial Pipeline?
Surprisingly correct.
I've seen your mother's dark side, too, if you know what I mean, Tribeca.
Nice. Colman is back to $0. I hate to say it, but the board is yours, Sean Connor, AI.
I'll take IP at dresses for 400, please.
That's IP addresses.
Oh, I'm sure you have some dresses in your closet. I know your mother keeps some of hers in mine.
Lord, let it stop. 8.8.8.8.
What is Google's favorite secure DNS server?
Correct. Because nothing screams privacy like sending all your traffic straight to Google. Greg, the board is yours.
I'll take obscure entries from SIM logs for $400.
var/log/auth.log.
What's the log that says single quote, you tried sudo and you failed, single quote question mark, left parentheses, auth.log, right parentheses?
Correct. 400 points.
I'll take obscure entries from SIM logs for 800.
Event ID. 41. The system has rebooted without cleanly shutting down first.
What is someone pulling the power cord?
Correct. Nothing says professional IT like, did you try turning it off and on again?
He'll take passwords that start with 123 for 400.
123 MARS 4EVR.
What is Elon Musk's password?
Correct. Next answer.
I'll take passwords for 800.
123J OEBYE.
What is Donald Trump's password?
I'm sorry.
Well, who is Taylor Swift?
That is correct. I didn't know you were a Swiftie, Sean.
Of course. It's a reference for her famous ex-boyfriend, Joe Jonas. I'm trained with all sorts of pop culture references so I can spot weak passwords. But in this case, I wanted to know what song your mother was singing in the shower, Tribeca.
That's it. You know what that means. We have failed to really determine who is the superior cybersecurity expert. We will move on to the final challenge. The last question is, what was the cause of the largest IT outage of all time? Make a wager. Choose a question. What will you risk? Who will be champion? What caused the biggest IT outage in history? Greg, let's see what you guessed. You guessed DNS.
It's always DNS, sometimes BGP or a Cloudflare misconfiguration, but usually DNS.
And what did you wager?
$600.
I'm sorry. That was not the correct answer, leaving you with 200. Let's see what you guessed, Colman. You also guessed DNS. I'm sorry, but that's not the correct answer.
Well, I still thought it could be DNS, even after hearing you say it wasn't.
And what did you wager? $0.
Not so. I was wagering that college boy over here was going to overthink it and lose.
And finally, we get to Sean Connor AI. Tell me, Sean, are you confident in your answer?
More confident than a CISO reporting a breach notification to the SEC.
And your answer is? I'm not sure I understand.
Oh, see, Alex, this is your mom, and this is me. We are at an airport.
You drew that?
I use Midjourney to emulate the artwork of millions of artists.
And is my mom crying because she is with you?
No, it was July 19th, 2024, and our Delta flight was canceled due to the CrowdStrike outage. It was a disaster for most people, Tribeca, but I got one more night out with your mom.
That's it. I'm done. No one should endure this sort of torture.
Clearly, you've never set up a Kubernetes cluster with break and inspect full packet capture, Tribeca. Ow! Ooh, ah! Ooh, ah! Ah! Ooh.
And that's all for this week's episode of That Cyber Game Show.
Hi there, it's Ron Gula from Gula Tech Adventures, and this week I sit down with Chief Operating Officer Nick Meisner from Cybrary, and today we're going to talk about all types of cybersecurity training. We're going to focus on enterprises who need to train their corporations and their people. We're also going to help people who are just new to cybersecurity and everybody in between. Nick, how are you?
I'm doing great. Thanks for having me.
How long have you been at Cybrary?
Coming up on 3 years.
What's changed in Cybrary over the last, let's just go back, you know the history, so what's changed over the last 10 years or so?
Wow, quite a bit. Cybrary was an innovator when it got started in 2015. Access to cybersecurity education for the individual was difficult to come by. You kind of had to do a patchwork, cobble it together yourself approach. What Cybrary did is they went out and they went out to all the different parties that were producing content relevant to cybersecurity education and brought it into one place. That being said, most of the content was developed by third parties, external vendors, etc. Over the years, what we've done is we've brought very nearly all of that content in-house. We're producing it ourselves. What that does is it gives us much more control over our overall philosophy and approach to cybersecurity and what are the relevant things that we need to teach you in order to get the job.
So, you know, we got a lot of people on the channel here that watch from all walks of life, right? Mm-hmm. So what do you say to the person who's like, I'm thinking about going into cyber, right? And is like, should they know IT? Do they got to learn AI? What is Cybrary's approach to getting that person who's really trying to think about this career field? What can we do to hook them?
Sure. So recently we rolled out a new path-based learning approach to cybersecurity training. What we've done here is we've aligned it to work roles, but for the person you're describing, they don't really have a work role in mind yet, right? They're figuring out what makes sense for them. For them, I would recommend the IT and Cybersecurity Foundations path. Now, all of our paths follow a learn, practice, prove model. What that means is we're going to teach you what is it you need to know. We're going to give you a practice environment where you can reinforce what you've learned, and then finally prove in a timed, unguided assessment where you can show that you've acquired the skills that you've been taught. For us here, we think that model will allow better retention and also something you can take out to the market or help you guide on your next steps for your career.
So if I'm, getting my MBA or, I'm three-striper, I'm trying to get into cyber and stuff like that, what does that mean for like my pocketbook?
The intro course is available to anybody who subscribes. We offer either a monthly or an annual subscription. The cost of a subscription is $59 a month. Annual is discounted on that. It's about 20% less on an annual basis. And with that, not only would you have access to that foundations course, you have access to all of our catalog, which means that if you want to then expand from there into a more specific work role, or you wanted to look at a cert, you could also use this for training there as well.
And if I'm a student, that sounds that's slightly more expensive than what I think I pay for Netflix and stuff like that. But
Yep.
but do you do anything to help students,
Absolutely.
veterans, that kind of stuff?
Absolutely.
What does that look like?
We discount by half. We recognize that there are folks that we really want to make sure that they're in a position to have access to the training that we offer. We know that's critical for our country. We know that's critical for the future of cybersecurity. So it's a 50% discount if you have an email that ends in .edu, .mil, .gov. All you have to do is register with that account or add it to your account, and you get the discount.
That's pretty cool. So, Cybrary is, we've been involved with Gula Tech Adventures for a long time.
Mm-hmm.
It's important for the nation to have more cyber sort of
Yes.
DNA and that kind of stuff. So, and this can be a kind of a tough question because you're here to kind of sell certifications, but like, what do you think we need more of, right? Would you rather see more like cyber people that knew a little bit about IT, more IT people that knew a bit about cyber? You guys see so many people that come through the platform. Like, what do you think? What's the type of person we need to defend the country? What do they need to do?
That's an interesting question. I think that a lot of companies, based on the feedback that I've gotten, a lot of companies have success moving people from IT roles into security roles. Which isn't to say you can't go in the other direction. I suspect that if you're working in cyber, the idea of going to IT is a little less appealing. Cybersecurity is a little bit cooler. So I think there's a little bit more of an allure there. But that being said, also having good networking skills, good IT fundamentals is going to help you in your cybersecurity journey.
And the thing I like about the platform that you have is, I get these questions all the time, like, what do I need to do? So that introductory course you were talking about, I think is really, really good. But of those career paths, which ones are kind of the most popular ones?
Sure.
And maybe which ones are like your enterprise customers asking they wish they saw students or candidates, get more exposure to?
Sure. The most popular one, the one that meets the most need right now, and this sort of fits the model of work roles within cybersecurity, right? We have a big base of SOC analysts, level 1 analysts, and we have a SOC analyst path. It, by the way, follows the same model, that learn, practice, prove. And I failed to mention before, but all of these are now following a hands-on first approach. So we spend as little time possible with video or written content. We want you in a VM working on the skills.
And you provide that, right? I don't have to like set up my own VPN or VM. Too many acronyms in our industry. But what is that experience? What is that like for the person? Can we log in and show people?
We can. There's a little bit of load time. So if you want to go ahead and flip over to Cybrary, we can get it spun up. If you click on career paths up there at the top and hit career paths, let's go down to SOC analyst, the second one.
Yep.
You can just click on there you go. And outline. And
nothing like a live demo.
There
right?
you go. Let's scroll on down to practice. Now I've completed all these, but we can revisit. Let's just go to search and destroy, or that one's fine too.
Search and destroy.
The top one on the practice.
Yep.
Yeah. And hit start lab. This will take a couple minutes to spin up. So,
this is, I think a lot of people, when they look at training, a lot of people say, oh, I just watched this thing on YouTube. And, it's not the same thing when you kind of have it in front of you.
That's right.
To be able to play with it and go, and you, like you've completed this course, you went back and you did that. So okay, so that took about a minute or two to boot up.
Yep.
What's going on in the search and destroy lab?
Okay, in the search and destroy lab, excuse me, you've got 3 tabs over there on the left. The tasks, this is your objective, so it's sort of a capture the flag style lab here. And then the machines you have access to. The instructions give you a rundown of what you need to execute. Machines then flip you from environment to environment, and then you enter the flags into the tasks.
Very cool.
Yep.
Very cool. So I saw you completed this one here. What? So are these going to be persistent, or are these going to boot up like every time?
The labs?
Yeah.
Yeah, they boot up every time.
Okay.
Yeah.
Cool. Very good. So this is a good. Should I go ahead and exit?
Yeah, go for it.
Okay. So then when I just look at all these different skills and stuff that you have, I go through that, and you guys have laid it all out. I think that's pretty neat. What do some of these things overlap? Do I ever do the same lab for a different skill path?
No. We now have a one-to-one relationship with all of our content. So this was a very specific taxonomic choice we made where rather than double or triple dipping on content, we wanted to make sure that we were supporting the work roles and the needs of the user as opposed to trying to, kind of spread the pie out.
Very cool. So if I come back to the career paths and I just kind of look at what everything's else, so you got a lot of stuff here: IT and security foundations, pen tester, security engineer, and these are all the level 1 things. You have different levels of education in each of these.
Right. So if pen tester is an intermediate. Obviously, that's a more advanced work role. If the security engineer, which will be out in the next couple of weeks, actually, it's and many of the supporting courses within there are available today. Those are, I would call, intermediate. Obviously, leadership and management is it oriented towards somebody who's looking to follow a leadership track within that practice.
Now that kind of gets me into another question about the professionalization of the industry. So I got the gray hair. Sometimes I'm like, I actually got my, I don't have to get a boat license because I was born after 1971, right? But I almost feel like, in Maryland at least, right? Uh-huh. I almost feel like in cyber, people who kind of came earlier, they don't really relate to, the struggle it is to get a degree, to get a certification, and there's some poo-pooing of that. We kind of talked a little bit about that already. But what do I do if I'm an individual and I've got all these certifications? Do I put it on LinkedIn? Do I put it on my resume? I mean, how does somebody demonstrate the work that they've accomplished? I mean,
certainly certs are a big part of it, right? It is an incredibly competitive environment right now for cybersecurity work roles, especially once you get into intermediate and advanced roles. I think we're seeing a recycling of individuals there. So whether we like certs or not, we know they're valuable. We know that they're valuable for the individual in terms of moving on in their career. What do? I think absolutely you got to put it out there on your resume that you hold those certs. You also want to boast about what tech stacks you've worked with. You want to make sure that's available. So show off your work as much as possible.
And then if I'm successful in cyber, I'm going to eventually be a manager.
Right.
In cyber, although, not everybody has to be a manager, but let's say I'm a CISO.
Sure.
I'm in charge of talent for my organization. Mm-hmm. Can I then, how do I look at people who've taken those certifications? How can I just do things like mandate, hey, I want everybody to be able to pass basic firewall admin or basic this kind of stuff? What do you guys do in that area?
So everything that we offer for the individual, we give admins an additional layer that allows them to mandate, as you said, what their teams do through goals. And we can assign goals at a path level. So if you were going through, let's say, a workforce transformation, and you were taking some folks that were in IT, like we talked about before, and bringing them into security roles, we could mandate at the goal level. If you wanted to get more specific, we could do it at the topic level or even down to the course.
Now I've pulled up the team's demo environment that you have here. What am I looking at?
Let's go to the top. So at the top is a summary of what we found to be really the core KPIs that people will pay attention to, what their teams are doing. So learning hours. XP is a concept we introduced about a year ago. It differentiates from learning hours a little bit in that it grades based on the difficulty. If you're watching a video, you earn very little XP. If you're completing an unguided assessment, lots of XP. So it gives you a little more nuance into the degree of difficulty of the work your team is doing. Badges are another new concept that we have as well. And now this training progress widget below shows you the relative investment of your team. And in this case, it's in learning hours, but you can toggle to XP if you'd like. Right there. And there. Now, so what it shows is by domain. And this is Cybrary's own taxonomic framework. Why don't you go ahead and click on the green foundations section, just anywhere in the graph. And if you scroll down. So what we've done is now not only do you see the domain, but you see the topics within the domain, and you can see the relative investment at a domain and topic level for a given period of time. This lets you know what your team is spending its time doing. One of the things that's pretty cool about Cybrary is that you do have the ability to assign and require work, but your team has the ability to do self-guided learning as well. So you can find all kinds of insights. You can find out the analyst who's interested in moving into more of an offensive role through the tools that we have here.
That's excellent. So, recording this in late 2024, where we've got the new Trump administration, going in there. We've had the Security Exchange Commission really come down hard. We've got the CMMC certification for civilian organizations doing business. But you have to be able to demonstrate that you have some sort of cyber prowess. So this type of training capture and stuff, does this help people demonstrate compliance?
Absolutely. I think whereas you can go on YouTube and watch a video, but how do you prove that you've acquired knowledge? And certainly if you're somebody who's in a managerial position, you want auditable and verifiable data that you can report back to a compliance body that's looking at what's happening. With Cybrary, we make that very, very easy. We're very focused on the fact that as more compliance and requirements have come in, we need to make sure that we're answering the call, making it really easy for you, the manager, to answer to that.
So, I like before we were talking about, the discount for veterans, students, that sort of thing. But a lot of times if I talk to a CISO at, whether it's a small, enterprise, or even just somebody's like a SOC manager at an MSSP, right? Somebody's they got 100, I'll say kids, but, just a young people in this thing. The thing I like about this is when I was in the Air Force, we had this concept of the fear of missing out, right? So is the real Air Force the F-15 pilot? Is it somebody who's a key turner in a nuclear missile silo?
Right.
And in cyber, there's so much of this imposter syndrome. I see a YouTube video. I don't know. So the thing I like about these guides and these career paths is it gives people a roadmap for what they want.
Absolutely.
And they can change. Now, what has been the interest in this from, I'll say, small business and enterprises?
People have been incredibly receptive to the orientation we've taken. And I don't know if you noticed that we also are aligned to not just our own framework, but the NICE framework. We're also in the process of remapping all of our content to the DoD 8140 framework as well. What we want to do is make sure that we're flexible enough that we can meet the needs of the organization, regardless of how you evaluate the skills within your organization. The path-based approach, particularly with the hands-on first and a learn, practice, prove model, has been really, really well received. We also have introduced a concept called baselining. And if you click up at the top of the measure tab, right there at the top, there we go. And then if you go over to the, let's go down to role, the drop down there and hit SOC analyst. There we go. So with the baselining, this is a new feature that we introduced this summer. What it allows you to do as a manager is to assign either at the topic or at the work role level to all or part of your organization an assessment. It's a pre-assessment. It measures how well your team knows the given topic at hand.
And I haven't taken these assessments yet, but are these on par with like the kind of questions I get from like the CISPA certification, or are these a little bit more nuanced and indicative of this kind of career field?
They should be absolutely representative of the career field. So again, we're back into that VM. We're giving you tasks that are specific to the things you're executing within the role.
That's excellent. And I also think, as much as we talk about imposter syndrome, we do have some imposters in this industry who kind of put on a big show and stuff. So it's nice to prove it.
Yep. And so what's cool about these is, so you take that pre-assessment, any place where a given team member is showing to be deficient to whatever standard you have, the system automatically assigns remediation work. So it says, okay, well, you need work on packet capture analysis, right? Or whatever it is. And it will then assign courses. And then you get a post-assessment where we reassess on that topic again, and you can show the change over time.
That's excellent. And, I think when you start talking about all the different things that can happen in business, right? Mergers and acquisitions, just the ability of, do I need to increase my headcount? Mm-hmm. Do I need to outsource? You might be in a situation, we see this a lot, where I don't have enough people to do what I do. And as much as I want to train more people and get them into the industry, maybe the reality is I don't have the right people. I got to outsource. So this can help both those ways.
Correct. That's absolutely correct.
Very cool. So then what, it's the same content on the enterprise side. So it makes sense. Like you wouldn't teach one thing to an individual, but there's no other content that's different on the enterprise? There's no management awareness or anything like that? Or
no, I mean, our focus on the enterprise side is really to make sure that we're enabling the admins with the information they need to measure their team and also guide the learning of their team. So to your point, we wouldn't want to teach the different things on either side of the coin here. So the core content is the same.
Excellent. So your background, you're doing this as Cybrary, and we're trying to educate and as many people as we can, get many organizations doing that. But this is not your first cybersecurity company.
No, I worked for SecureWorks for 4 years.
And what did you do for SecureWorks?
I worked in operations. I essentially worked in kind of an ops for ops role, where I had a team that helped measure the efficiency of our security organization, which was largely about 2/3 of the entirety of SecureWorks at the time.
And I think this is one of the most disappointing things in business.
Yeah.
Like, we're all human. You never want to forget that. But
Yeah.
people look at their businesses as KPIs, right?
Yeah.
Right? Key indicators and stuff. And even if you got a bunch of people in a SOC working hard, you can still be more efficient, right?
Absolutely.
So what are some of the lessons you learned at SecureWorks that you are bringing to this in Cybrary?
Well, I think one of the challenges that we had at SecureWorks, and I think probably a lot of security organizations face, is the difficulty of proving the value that you're adding. How do you prove a negative? And what we're trying to do at Cybrary, particularly with a lot of the new reporting we're introducing, is being able to show incremental change and also the positive impact that as a result of that change. We're all fighting to be able to show that the work we're doing has value. That was true at SecureWorks. It's true with many of the organizations that we do business with today. So we're really trying to make it easier for teams to show the value.
Very good. So if I'm just starting out and I'm an individual, I go to cybrary.it.
Mm-hmm.
If I'm large enterprise, small enterprise, MSSP, I go to Cybrary IT, right?
Correct.
I mean, it's the same path for engaging all those people, right?
That's right. That's right.
Very good. And then, when you start thinking about down the road, and I know when I look at what Cybrary's been delivering for the last 10 years or so, there's a lot more coming. Anything you can share about the stuff that you're working on?
Yeah, absolutely. So in 2 or 3 weeks, we will have an AI path out. It's not listed on the site when you were going through and clicking on the drop down, but we recognize the importance of AI in our field. We knew we needed to answer the call there. So we're going to introduce a path around AI as well. So that's a big one that's coming. As I mentioned before, within the next few weeks, we will have an updated KST level alignment to 8140 and NIST. That's a bottoms-up mapping, which means that we're at the KST level, you'll be able to identify the content that relates to that specific KST and engage in it, as well as do the top-down. So if you just wanted to go from a NICE or 8140 work role, you could work that way.
Excellent. Well, we will be looking forward to seeing that content coming out. And again, anybody who's on the platform is going to be able to have access to that. So that's pretty good.
Yep.
Nick, thank you so much for coming on the show this week and talking about Cybrary. I'm thrilled to be involved with it. I'm thrilled that you're there and adding a lot of great content and value for folks in the industry.
I'm glad to be here, and I really appreciate everything you've done with us.
All right. I'm Ron Gula. This has been an episode about Cybrary and getting into the cybersecurity career field. I hope everybody has a great week. Subscribe to the channel and set up an account over at Cybrary. Thanks again.